Everyone, this is Matty Fresh from megapoker.net. This is the fifth installment of the Learn to Play Poker video series, Starting Hand Requirements and Table Position. This is a two-part video lesson, and the first part we're just going to go through starting hand requirements and start talking about table position, and then in the second part we'll get more in-depth on playing hands based on table position. So let's get started. Ace-Jack suited obviously is a very strong hand regardless of where you're playing. It should not be treated as a premium hand, however. Since everyone folded around to you with one call, we're going to raise it up. But when you first start playing poker, the first thing that you need to devise in your mind is your starting hand requirements, which is what hands you play, what hands you don't play. Everyone's played in online tournaments or live games where donkeys play any two cards. You always have the guy that you end up at his table and he goes all in every hand and then shows down hands like 7-5 off. And really, to be a great poker player, you have to have hands that you play and don't play. You need to stick to them and play very disciplined. As far as your starting hand requirements go, come up with them with what's based on your personality. If you're an outgoing, out there, aggressive person, your poker style should mimic that. You should play a lot of hands, but it doesn't mean that you play junk. Or a quiet, collected, logical person would play a very tight game. Just play what's best suited for you. But basically, you just need to filter the junk out of your hands when you're playing them. I've read a lot of books about starting hand requirements and have written a lot about starting hand requirements, and basically hands like Jack 8, Jack 7, Queen 7, King 8, King 7, those hands, you just throw them away. They're not that good. The reason for having starting hand requirements is because if you're playing junk like Jack Deuce or King 5, when you hit your king, you're going to get outkicked a lot of the time, and that's just not smart poker. It's not profitable poker. You need to play smartly. Don't play any ace just because you have an ace. Really discipline yourself to play a strong, solid poker game. And once you develop the hands that you play and you don't play, you need to utilize table position. And that's where you're at in relation to the dealer button and the blinds should dictate how tight or how loose you play your game. In an early position, you should play your tightest game. Only the best of your hands in early position. The reasons for that is that the entire table acts behind you, and they have information about your hand already, and they have the option to raise over the top of you. So that way, you need to only display the strongest of your hands early, so that way you'll have the ability to act early later in the hand when they have position on you. King Queen offsuit is a fairly solid hand. Again, I don't advise playing this in early position to a raise. I would limp in with it. You have an early position raise here. We're gonna call it and see what happens on the flop. Obviously you miss, so you're just gonna let it go. You're sitting in middle position right now with pocket sevens. Aggressive players would definitely raise here. I'd just limp in and utilize a strategy I call set or die. It's where you flop a set or you get out of the hand. It's simple. And we're utilizing another strategy here where you call a raise and try to flop a set because there's huge implied odds if you do so. You'll probably win the pot if you do flop a set. In this case, that was not the right decision. You're simply just going to lay it down with two overs and a flush draw on the board. This is a hand that a lot of people play. I see a lot of people play suited kings. I don't play them personally. King 8 suited looks like junk to me. In middle position, I'm just going to let it go. The only times I'd consider playing it is maybe once in a while on the button or in the blinds. But other than that, it's you'll get yourself in trouble with it, and it's just not that good. The same goes for suited queens, suited jacks. they're just not that good. As you just saw, folding ace-9 offsuit in early position. I've seen a lot of people raise with that hand. It's simply not that strong. Ace-9 suited under the gun, again, a lot of people would raise with it. A lot of people would play it. But you have to realize there's 8 or 9 people to act after you, and there's a good chance there's a better hand out there. I'm going to lay it down. I seem to be getting a run of ace-9. In the big blind, it's a perfectly valid hand. To a raise on the button, I'm going to lay it down, obviously. And another thing you need to keep in mind is when you get a hand that excites you, like a ace-10, ace-jack, king-queen, you have to realize that it more or less is just a high connector. It's not a premium hand. Get it in your head that it won't ever be a premium hand and treat it as such. I see a lot of people call all-ins like this with ace-10 offsuit and get hopelessly dominated. So we're going to lay it down and move on. Ace-6 suited. I do play suited aces once in a while. I consider ace-6 suited the worst because it has no straight possibilities and it's just not that solid. Since we're on the button and it's only the blinds, we have very strong position. We act last in the hand and it checked us, so we're going to take a stab here and try to take down the pot, which we did. That's another thing to keep in mind also. If you have position on your opponents and they check to you indicating weakness, don't be afraid to take a stab at the pot and see where you're at. King 10 offsuit is another one of those mediocre hands that is overvalued by newer players. This hand needs to be treated as a mediocre hand. It's not a raising hand. King 10 suited, maybe you could raise with it in late position. Early position players folded. Strong bad in middle position, put in a raise. What this should say to us right now is that he has a hand in the range of a trap hand, like a king-queen, queen-jack, maybe a hand similar to the hand we're holding. So we're going to call and see what the flop reveals. That flop completely missed us, and strong bad checked to us, opting not to make a continuation bet. At this point, we're going to make a probe bet, which is a bet to probe your opponent for information. A raise would indicate, obviously, that he has a hand stronger than what you're representing. Probe bets should never exceed half the size of the pot because you want to get away cheap because you're often going to be re-raised. So we're going to bet $7 here and get away if we're raised. He raises and we're done with the hand. Simple enough. King Jack offsuit. I wouldn't play it in early middle. Where we're sitting in mid to late position right here. Everyone folded around except for Trogdor, who called. We're simply going to call too because it's a good hand, but it's not a great hand. It's not a hand that you should involve yourself in raised pots with. Chuck bet the aces. When the board pairs, it's very unlikely that one opponent actually has that pair. If you're not convinced that they have an ace, I would throw in a raise here. We're going to test since we have king high, which would be the best hand if someone doesn't have a pair. He raises again. He's saying he has us, so we're going to lay it down. King Jack offsuit again, this time in middle position. It folded around to us. That's a perfectly viable situation. If someone limps in from early position with King Jack and you're sitting in middle, I would lay it down personally. Big blind decided to raise. It's up to you if you want to call. We're going to call in this situation just so we can talk about the flop a little more. You missed and you fold. King 7 suited. This is another hand that a lot of donks like to play. Again, you're starting to get towards early position. You're sitting in middle position, so simply just lay it down. And we're going to talk more about table position in the second part of this video. This showdown's going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys in the second video. And until that time, For more information on poker and more poker resources, visit www.mega-poker.net. Thank you.